So welcome back. It's week 5 in the Barclays Premier League. It seems like absolutely ages since I was in front of this webcam giving you a round of games, but it's actually only been 2 weeks. I guess after those smouldering fixtures at Old Trafford and Villa Park, we just couldn't wait to get stuck in again. So here goes anyway. This is the Saturday results show, 4 games that I'm going to cover, and they're crackers, I must say, having watched the highlights earlier this morning and of course the match last night that opened it all up, the Merseyside Derby between Everton and Liverpool. Now some team news first. After the international break, of course, Sigurdsson and Iwobi still on the bench for Everton. They were basically at full strength, although there was a bit of a doubt about Coleman, but he was selected. He didn't play midweek for the Irish, but he was in at right back. And Alan and Gomez in midfield. For the Reds, Mane was back after his COVID quarantine, and Thiago was making his debut, and Matic was in for Gomez at the back. So, a statistic, Liverpool have been undefeated in the last 22 matches against the Toffees. So it looked a tall order for the league leaders even before we kicked off. 2 minutes, a sign of things to come. An overlap on the left for Liverpool. They managed to get it to Robertson, and he was far too swift for Coleman, and he clipped the ball into the box, and Mane was there, and he snapped it up, and it was in the back of the net, and it was 1-0. And we hadn't had 2 minutes. 4 minutes, Henderson had a golden chance that could have doubled the lead, but he missed the cross by inches. 5 minutes, a rather disturbing incident. More pressure from Liverpool, and the ball came into the area of the right side. Van Dijk was in there, and he went for the ball, and he got a slight touch, but collided with Pickford. Well, more like Pickford just took him out. It was a dreadful challenge. The game stopped for some time. Van Dijk had to leave the field, and VAR had a look at it, and it looked to me like a clear red card. But for some reason, they noticed that Van Dijk was offside. So free kick to Everton. No action on the keeper. Absolutely remarkable. So Gomez was reinstalled in the defence, and Van Dijk was limping to the dressing room. And it certainly affected Liverpool. Understandably, Van Dijk's their best player. Dania had a cross on 11 minutes, and Lewin got very close, but his header went over Adrian's bar. Still no Alisson, of course, which is an obvious weakness at the back for Liverpool. And then on 18 minutes, Lewin was put through, and he forced a decent save from Adrian, who pushed it behind. But from the resulting corner, Keane, high in the box, way above the Liverpool defenders, and he headed sternly in from that, and that was 1-1. So Everton back to parity, and very quickly. 24 minutes, Arnold strike from outside the box, but this time Pickford managed to palm it away for a corner, and it was a pretty good save by the England keeper. 33 minutes, another good move from Liverpool. Firmino picked out Robertson on the left, and his cross found Mane, but this time his effort went a yard wide. 40 minutes, Decore, who was coming more into the game, flashed across Liverpool's 6-yard box, but it evades evaded Richarlison's foot on the way through, and so it was a let-off really for Liverpool. Final chance of the half, again Henderson, who was much further upfield for him. He's usually in front of the back four, but he was marauding down the right quite a bit, and his cross was a dangerous one, but it went away for a corner. So we got to the break, honours even, 1-1. So into the second half then, and an early chance for Henderson, his strike after a poor clearance by Mina on 47, but it went over the top. A couple of minutes later up the other end, Dana, or whatever his pronunciation is, the French left back anyway, overlapping into the box, and a good chance for Lewin, but for somehow the deadly striker wasn't so deadly and he completely missed it. Then 58 minutes, another raid by Hamas. His cross was precision, and Richarlison's headed touch was hit the post and was woofed away by the Liverpool defence. I was very impressed with Thiago making his debut for Liverpool, and he certainly looks a quality buy. But 64 minutes, again James, and he bent his shot slightly wide of Adrian, who pushed it behind anyway. And then on 71 minutes, Henderson involved in the action again, and this time the Colombian's clearance was gobbled up by Salah, who instinctively hit the ball and it whacked into the corner of the goal. It was a stunning strike from the Egyptian, and so Liverpool had taken the lead again by 2-1. Pickford had to be smart on 76, and this was from a Matic header following a corner. So it remained 2-1. 80 minutes. Everton are a much stronger side than last season, resilient and lots of character. And yeah, on 80 minutes they headed the equaliser from Calvert-Lewin, who else? And that was again Dana involved in the assist with an excellent pass to him by the ever-imposing James. So it was 2-2, all to play for in the last 10 minutes. Jota came on, and he tipped an effort. His effort forced Pickford to tip the ball over, and then we had an unsatisfactory challenge by Richarlison on Thiago, right over the top, and the referee had little choice but to issue a red card. So the last 10 minutes or so, Everton down to 10. We got into added time, and then there was an amazing series of Everton defensive saves. It was ping-pong in there, and eventually it came out, and Henderson caught the ball neatly. Pickford should have saved it, but he made a right hash of it, and it went into the goal, and it looked like the Reds had stolen it, although probably just on the balance they deserved it. But then we had VAR, of course. Oh, VAR. He can't stay out of the action. After what seemed an absolute age, VAR ruled that there was a slight offside from Mane leading up to the cross, which eventually came to Henderson. So the goal was chalked off, and the final whistle came, and an exhilarating Merseyside Derby had ended. Everton 2, Liverpool 2. So the second match on this Saturday. Interesting, all the matches now are staggered so that you can effectively watch all of them if you've got access, which is very convenient. This is the impact of COVID, of course. They want to maximise the fee that they're paying to the clubs from TV rights, and so the TV companies are controlling this so that they can maximise their ads to pay for it. I'm sort of okay with that, though it is quite irritating, the quantity of ads that I get just because I'm in Thailand. They're absolutely obsessed with it here. But let's get to the match now at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea against Southampton. Team news again. The new goalkeeper for Chelsea hadn't come back, or wasn't back in enough time to train, so Kepa was restored in goal. Also Pulisic back in the starting lineup. On the bench was James, Abraham and Hudson-Odoi. For Southampton, Redmond made a return after a long spell out injured, and they also selected Walcott, who has returned to his former club, in fact his first club, on loan from the Toffees. So that's an interesting selection, I must admit. 2 minutes though, an early save from two saves, in fact, from McCarthy, from Chilwell and from Harvitz. 7 minutes though, Kepa had to be alert. He got his legs to stop an effort from Adams, but on 14 minutes Chelsea had been totally dominant up to this stage. Werner got hold of it. He's a very swift type of player, moves well, great with both feet, and he managed to weave himself into the box and slotted it in the corner, and that was 1-0 to the Blues. 25 minutes, Chelsea once again on the attack, and 2 minutes later Werner got his second, and this was a delightful move. Jorginho with a beautiful over-the-top pass over Southampton's rather sluggish defence. Werner nipped in, and he managed to clip the ball over the goalkeeper, and he swiveled past him and headed it into an empty net, and that was 2-0 for Chelsea, and they looked in total control. Zuma had a header on 30, but the goalkeeper managed to avoid a third. And then Southampton steadied the ship a bit, and on 42 minutes, who else? Danny Ings gobbled up an opportunity after some poor defending by Chelsea. He rounded the keeper, and the through ball was delicious, but I didn't catch the assist. But that made it 2-1, and that was what it was at the break. So, into the second half then. Ings again started well, an effort just wide on 53, and then an absolute disaster on 56 minutes involving Zuma and Kepa. Zuma's back pass was far too feeble. Kepa rushed out and completely missed the ball, and Adams picked the scraps, and after a sort of a bit of ping pong near the post, he swept the ball high into the roof of the net, and Southampton were level. 58 minutes though, Harvitz, he looks a good buy. The other German, the twin German attack now at Stamford Bridge, and he slotted home after a great assist from Werner, my man of the match. And so they were back in front 3-2, but they didn't look at all at ease about it, and Southampton were growing into this tie, and it was hardly surprising then that in 91 minutes Southampton managed to get the equaliser. Walcott was involved in this, and he managed to weave his way into the box. His cross caused a panic in the Chelsea defence, and Vestergaard managed to get a foot to it, and it fizzed past Kepa, and so that was the leveller. So full-time whistle followed fairly soon after that. Chelsea again ruined those defensive errors. They were totally in charge of this tie, but Southampton, they are resilient to say the least. The final score at Stamford Bridge was Chelsea 3, Southampton 3. So the third match then, Manchester City at home to Arsenal. On paper it looked a juicy tie. This was probably the most disappointing of the four games, it has to be said. Manchester City, though, did have Aguero back. He's been out for months, but there was no De Bruyne. He wasn't even on the bench. Ake and Diaz were at the back for City. I didn't see the Argentina, Otamendi. He wasn't around. I guess he was jet lagged or something. Gundogan was back after his COVID ban, and Fernandinho was on the bench. Maybe he hadn't quite recovered from his escapades for Brazil in the week. For Arsenal, they had Luiz and Gabriel in at the back. Lacazette on the bench again. He's probably not too pleased with that, and still no sign of Ozil. Maybe Ozil's gone to play his football somewhere else, but we've heard nothing. Early curling shot from Mahrez after a minute, which went inches wide, and he certainly looked the man who could open up the Arsenal defence. 22 minutes though, Sterling swept home after some good work from Foden, which forced Leno to parry the ball out to Sterling. So 1-0 to the Man City. Pepe had a header from a William Cross that went wide a few minutes later, and Saka involved in some neat interplay, but his final effort was pushed wide by Ederson. Ederson had come back from Brazil, but of course he didn't play. 1-0 at the break. Then second half, I didn't see much highlights here, reflecting the fact that there weren't any. Luiz had a free kick over on 68 minutes, and Pepe inches wide on 81. Not a lot from Man City in the second half, but they hung on, and a surprising scoreline for lack of goals here. Final score at the Etihad then, Manchester City 1, Arsenal 0. So the last game on Saturday was at St James's Park, Newcastle at home to Manchester United. Right, Maguire was selected. He's the captain, of course, even though there's been a lot of talk about resting him. But there were changes in midfield after that debacle at home to Spurs. Pogba was on the bench, and McTominay was in for the Reds, as was Juan Mata, who'd been looking excellent in the EFL games. Fred was in midfield, Matic on the bench, and Martial, of course, a red card in the last game, so he wasn't available. Down the other end, Linton and Wilson were up front for Newcastle, and St Maximin also selected, he's fit. We got off to a crazy start. It was just over a minute on the cross. A nice ball from John Joe Shelvey out to the right, and Kraft, I hadn't heard of him before, he was trying to overlap down that right hand side. He clipped a cross in, and it hit Shaw, and a wicked deflection took it past De Gea, and so Newcastle were amazingly 1-up after a really farcical effort. 18 minutes, great move by United. Mata and Fernandes involved, and eventually it was slotted home with aplomb by Fernandes into the roof of the net. But offside, VAR spotted an offside, a heel, and so it was chalked off. 22 minutes, again Mata involved, and his shot was put behind by Darlow, who had to be busy. From the resulting corner though, Maguire soared above the group in the 6-yard box, and his header hit the corner of the net, and parity was restored. 29th minute, St Maximin had a snapshot from distance, but De Gea did just enough, and that was the state of the play at the break, 1 each. Into the second half, and St Maximin, he's very elusive in the box. He managed to field Wilson, and this produced a first-class save from De Gea, who managed to clip it clear. 54 minutes, there was a penalty claim on Rashford. It looked a bit soft, but VAR gave the penalty, and Fernandes stepped up, and everybody thought, well, this is 2-1, but Darlow saved it. A very good save it was indeed, and so it remained 1-1. On 58 minutes, Paddy Maguire still being prevalent up the other end of the field, and he had a header cleared off the line, and then again a shot on 79 that went inches wide from the United captain. But finally, on 85 minutes, United's dominance paid off, and Fernandes was involved. He set it up in the box. Rashford and Van der Beek had come on, and Mata, and Fernandes got the last touch, and he hit a fierce finish into the top right-hand corner, and so that was 2-1. Well, that opened the floodgates. 4 minutes later, Wan-Bissaka on the right hit a pile driver after a neat cut inside, and Rashford again involved in the setup on this, and the ball sort of whistled through the keeper, and that was 3-1 to United. Icing on the cake then, 96 minutes of breakaway. Rashford, far too pacey for the Newcastle defence, danced into the box and swept it past Darlow, and that was 4-1, and that's how it finished. United bouncing back after that embarrassment against Spurs. It's good news for Solskjaer. Not so much good news for Pogba. There is talk of them releasing that 1-year clause to keep him at Old Trafford another year. I'm not so sure about that. But final score at St James's Park was Newcastle 1, Manchester United 4. So let's just have a quick update of how that affects the division. We're still only 5 games in. Of course, for many who play tomorrow, for only 4. But Everton retain their top position, 5 matches, 13 points. That's 4 wins and a draw. Liverpool are on 10, 3 wins, a draw and a loss. In third place are Villa, still the only team now with the maximum 9 points from 3 games. In fourth place are Leicester with 9 points from 4. And then the 2 London sides just below them, Arsenal 5 games, 9 points, and Chelsea 5 games, 8 points. My team, Manchester United, are now up to 14th. They've got a 50% record, 2 wins, 2 draws, 6 points from 4 games. So that's how it stands at the top. It's a multitude of goals. I'm going to give the goal of the day, though, to Timo Werner, his second against Southampton. It was a delightful piece of skill, and he's certainly going to be in the goals for Chelsea. I'll see you probably on Monday with a roundup of the other games to be played on Sunday and Monday.